Thank you, Bridget. Next on the agenda is Browne's edition, and tonight, speaking for him, is their chair, Rick Biggerstaff.
Which is the button, Ron?
You want me to push the button?
I can get it. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Council. Good evening, President Stuckard. And I'd also like to extend a thank you for taking time to listen to neighborhoods and have this conversation. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to talk about the neighborhoods that you have. Again, I'm Rick Biggerstaff, the chair of Browne's Edition. And so tonight, we'll talk a little bit about what's happened in the past year, a little bit about what we're thinking about for 2014, and we're continually trying to think beyond that at the same time. So we started the year with some ups and downs. Some of the ups were we had a beautiful restoration of our gazebo. It went marvelously. Christine White, one of our neighborhood members, spearheaded this project, did a beautiful, beautiful job working with the city and Parks and Rec, and did a gorgeous, gorgeous restoration that had a great kickoff, and it was really a wonderful way to start the year with that. We also had a new business start in our neighborhood. That's at our traffic circle. Mary Mulkey opened her EJ's Garden Bistro, and still the owner, but it's going to be under new management this spring. So right now it's not open. It should be reopening this spring, but we like seeing that additional business coming to our neighborhood. Sadly, the gazebo has been tagged already. So those are the things that happens, but we're working on those types of things. We also had some new opportunities happening. Volunteers America came into our Loon House. This is on Pacific, on the west end of Pacific. Paul Mann has owned that house for many, many years and worked diligently with the Volunteers of America to help purchase this home. Volunteers of America came to us about a year and a half ago and asked for our support in the work. So as a neighborhood, we financially supported some of the work being done on that. It's a program to help young teenage mothers work with children. And that's something that we really value. So we were able to move forward and help them with that. So we're glad to have them come in. Have a beautiful, beautiful home, and they take great care of that property. So we like to see that. Good partnership. Some of the struggles we've had this year started out with, sadly, we struggled over having a youth center come into Browne's Edition. And truly what it was just we did not communicate well with ourselves as to what we were trying to accomplish. We had probably the ugliest neighborhood meeting that we've ever had. It made the news because we just couldn't work with ourselves. After we slowed down a little bit and took a deep breath, we realized this is about children, and can we support children? So the neighborhood did, after a while, come back. We had some conversations and decided to financially support the youth program coming to All Saints in Browne's Edition to support the youth. We have continued conversations about how we're working with the program at the church, but we should see that the groundbreaking just happened about a month ago, and we should see some progress on that. So welcome to have that in our neighborhood. It's always wonderful to have kids in a neighborhood. That's a healthy, healthy thing to do. We had a good year of entertainment. We have our concert series going on every year. We hope to make sure that happens again this summer. It's always a challenge. It takes someone with a lot of strength to make that happen, and we had a young lady last year spearhead that for us. She won't be with us this next year, but we should have that in place for our summer concert series in Coeur d'Alene Park. We also have Art Fest and Elk Fest. In the past, Art Fest and Elk Fest have happened on the same weekend, and that was leading to some troubles. So I'm very proud to say that the MAC and the Elk got together and said, how can we make this work for our neighborhood and for the city? And they've decided to use 2 different weekends to do that. So they do happen on separate weekends now, which has an impact on our businesses in the neighborhood, good and bad. So it's people working together to make this better for everyone. So good services for the city, and you'll see those happen again this summer. We're looking forward to that. For 2014, we've been talking for quite some time as a neighborhood, where do we want to focus? We're really proud of what the city's doing. The city's really drawing focus into their neighborhoods. Rather than trying to do a whole bunch and not doing really well, let's focus and do some things very, very well. And as a neighborhood, we've been talking about where do we want our focus to be. And it really kind of started with the gazebo project, the restoration of that. We've had a committee of people come forward in our neighborhood and formed what they call the Friends of Coeur d'Alene Park. They stole that from Friends of Manitou Park, by the way. Got the idea. And they've worked diligently to look at the history of the park. They've done a lot of research, and they've met regularly, at least once a month for 6 months now, thinking about what we can do with our park. They've come back to our neighborhood steering committee and spoke several times. They're a regular update at our steering committees meetings, and they are proposing some modifications to the park to really beautify the park, go back to the historical nature of the park. They want to connect this also to Overlook Park, which looks over Latah Creek. There's tremendous history when you stand there and look out over Latah Creek. Amazing history of Spokane. So they want to bring some of that history back for people to visit that Overlook Park, connect those parks together with traffic, and you can see some of the things that they want to look at. They found out, historically, they found out at one time Coeur d'Alene Park was a park that represented all natural vegetation to Spokane. If there was a certain plant or tree natural in Spokane, it was represented in Coeur d'Alene Park. Now it's really lost that. It's really lost the feel. So they'd like to bring that back. The gazebo is historically a bandstand, so it is technically a bandstand, but we like to call it gazebo. They found out that there was a food shelter there, so they're trying to come back and say, how can we make this a little more historic, but still make it a 21st century park at the same time? It's a wonderful, wonderful group. And also what they'll do is also look into the lighting. So how can we make this a safer park and let that lighting spearhead throughout our neighborhood? Because as we talked to the safety officers in our neighborhood, they said, it's about lighting to make your neighborhood safe, because that's something they're always interested in. So, and we like the idea of starting with Coeur d'Alene Park because it is a place where everyone in Browne's Addition attends. It's not just for some, it's for all, and that's where we see great diversity in a neighborhood that wants wonderful diversity. It seems to be Coeur d'Alene Park and the Rosars. That's where you get the great diversity going on. We're happy that the MAC, we have a wonderful partnership with the MAC. They've been great with us. They're very, very helpful, and they are the ones that put on the Mother's Day Tour, as you probably know. And this Mother's Day Tour, the MAC decided they were going to have a theme of 100 stories at the MAC, not just the Mother's Day Tour, but at the MAC. And they're going to put together 100 stories of historic Spokane. So they came to our neighborhood and said, what do you think about being on the Mother's Day Tour? Because there's so much history in Browne's Addition, and we can tie it into the work that we're doing. So we loved the idea. So we've been working with them and identifying some properties. So Browne's Addition will be the host location for the Mother's Day Tour this year. And something that Browne's Addition can offer is the versatility of all the different types of property. We have private homes, we have business homes, we have some beautiful condominiums and apartments, and we plan on having those available for people to tour at the same time. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. We've been in conversation with STA. They came to us about a year ago and talked to us about some electric rail that they'd like to work on, as I'm sure you know, starting in the River Point area, moving through the downtown area and into Browne's Addition. And when they met with us to talk about that, they just presented it to us, but we have begun having conversations as a neighborhood as to what impact, good, bad, and indifferent, this would have on Browne's Addition. We've learned in the past that when conversations delay in a neighborhood, and they can go a lot of different directions. So we're trying to be very proactive. Although STA is not talking about anything happening until 2017, we'd like to bring STA back into conversations with us so we can have conversations about the impact this will have. We're already a very, very, very dense neighborhood, which makes it a beautiful neighborhood for a variety of reasons. We have the diversity. But what's the impact of bringing in more transportation? It's good for business, not good for business. Is it good for density, not good for density? Those are the things that we want to talk about. So we're trying to be proactive in that work. So we plan on having more and more meetings with our neighborhood and involving STA so we can learn about that. And as we look ahead, I think the thing that's foremost on our minds is our safety. Again, with a neighborhood as dense as we are, we have property owners that live in Browne's Addition. We have property owners that don't live in Browne's Addition but live in Spokane. And we have property owners that don't live in Spokane at all. They live in San Francisco. And with that comes good and bad. And we've been on the news a lot lately because we've had some troubles in our neighborhood. And sometimes it's because we just have property owners. It's just difficult for them to maintain the property, the tenants, and so on. We want to maintain the diversity in all aspects. That's not what we're trying to change, but we want to improve the safety. The National Historic Preservation came to Spokane last year. The year prior to that was in Buffalo. And my wife and I traveled to Buffalo to visit that conference. And we sat in on a couple of sessions in which the neighborhoods worked very, very, very closely with the city, very closely with the police, and very closely with the court system for this reason. And they've made wonderful, wonderful gains, focusing on something and moving forward. And they had great things to say. And my wife and I have learned that. We've shared that with our neighborhood. But how can what we want to do is help support our landlords. We don't want to drive them out. That's not what we're trying to accomplish. But how do we support them so we can have the beautiful neighborhood we have and still have it be safe? Those are the things. I think that's what's really foremost on our minds over the next few years is how we can do that. Just 2 weeks ago, I attended the CDGB meeting with the board, and this conversation came up, and I was very excited and very encouraged to hear that it's not just Browne's Addition that has this going on, and the city knows about it. And these are things that we're talking about, is that how do we improve that safety and keep these neighborhoods safe? So people want to come here, they want to have business here, and people want to live in our neighborhoods. So we want to be active players in that and supporters of that. So since we're part of that neighborhood, we want to help work with that. So we're looking forward to the partnership that we will have with the city and all the wonderful things that are going on with neighborhood planning. So that would be it. Oh, and by the way, as you stick your finger up, I forgot to say, a special thank you comes from our friends of Coeur d'Alene Park for the mutt mitts. Councilman Schneider helped us find some money for some mutt mitts.
It's my pleasure for the mutt mitts.
They're a big deal. So
No.
a special thank you. And
Neighborhoods grind to a halt without their mutt mitts. I just wanted to comment because this, a lot of times there are crises that really pull neighborhoods apart. And oftentimes it's when a crisis happens that people ramp up their involvement in the neighborhood. And sometimes whole neighborhood councils are thrown out, new ones come in. And Browne's Addition has always been a very well-run neighborhood, but it was really severely tested this past year by one issue in particular that you mentioned. And what I think was just, I have to commend you on tremendously, is I came to the December meeting, and at the end of the year, after there had been all this controversy, what I saw was not a whole complete turnover in neighborhood participation, but I saw mostly all the same faces that were there at the beginning of that discussion. Maybe with some new ones too, but you figured out a way to get through that controversy without alienating big chunks of your neighborhood. That is no small feat. I think that is really commendable, and it is a standard that I'd like to see the rest of our neighborhood councils aspire to, because what we're trying to do with our neighborhood councils is to be a laboratory for democracy, to be our early warning system on controversial issues, and to help us come up with the right policy recommendations. So my hat is off to you and your participants, because I know that was very difficult, but the end result seems to have come out very well.
Yeah. Thank you for those words. It was challenging. We're a little bruised, but we have really rallied together and really made some steps forward. So thank you.
Just quickly, I would second that. I've been to a lot of heated council meetings. I've never been to one neighborhood council meeting like that. So kudos to you guys for working through it and really coming to a good resolution for our city as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Wilder.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of early warning systems, I really appreciate that you're working early on and reaching out to Spokane Transit. And I'm chair of the board this year. Would love to connect with you if you have any questions. Spokane Transit wants to get the feedback of the neighborhood as we kind of finalize the alignment of the Central City line, which is electrified bus, not rail.
Yep. Yes.
But we look forward to it, and we just, one of the reasons why that neighborhood is so important and such a great site in Spokane is because of the density and the closeness to downtown. And the goal for Spokane Transit is just to connect that neighborhood as best as possible to downtown and have the best service that we can offer. So look forward to that conversation.
Well, thank you. And the public transit is so important to the neighborhood, so important. So we want to partner.
Yep.
We don't want to put up roadblocks. We don't want to do that. We want to learn. We want to be educated. We don't know enough about it right now, so we can't. We've been trying to curtail conversations in the side because we don't know enough. We don't know enough.
Well, I'm
yet,
glad
so.
you brought that up so we can be there to answer and have a dialogue with you.
It's about getting educated, so that's what we want to do. So
great.
I look forward to the connection.
Okay,
I'm glad
we'll connect.
you shared that. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
And
All
President
right.
Stuckert, we do like chickens, by the way.
I'm glad you like chickens. You'll have more of them in your neighborhood soon. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much.